Let me share my screen so that you can see that. Okay, is it my screen?
Yes, I see it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for confirming that. So how are you all? How's the weekend been? Yesterday was a bit rough, I know. Today I slept for a long time, so I think I feel fresh. I hope you guys do as well.
Yeah, only slept for 4 hours.
Okay. It's okay for now because you have a lot on your plate to learn. So even if you sleep 2 hours, I think it's all right. Yeah, but actually you do need sleep because sometimes when you're working on stuff, I mean, it happens all the time. Little things you try to troubleshoot and you keep banging your head and, it's just not going to work. And just stepping aside, maybe having a walk or just going to sleep for 30 minutes, 1 hour, come back, you won't even spend 5 to 10 minutes and you solve the same problem you've been banging your head about. So yeah, sleep and rest, definitely need that. Definitely. This is the server that we were using yesterday. So let me just bring it back up. Okay. Up this.
Just a quick question, Darren.
Yes.
I noticed that when I log into AWS now, in the last, I think, 2 days, the interface has changed. But for yourself, it appears the old.
You mean right now or in the
Right, so whatever interface I'm seeing now,
yeah,
this is the old one we were getting. But if I log into my AWS, into my account, see the new setting. I think I'd received a pop-up saying there's going to be an upgrade or something.
well, actually, because I should be seeing the new one, so because new experience, if I turn it off, this should be the old one, because now I've turned it off. But if I want the new EC2 experience, I believe, except I'm wrong.
Right. Okay. I think
because you can actually toggle it here.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah. I think looks like it's a toggle. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. That's a good one. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, AWS, they're trying so hard to redesign the interface and all that. Obviously, because they started this whole thing, and when they started, they treat every new service concept, new ideas that they bring, they treat them as proof of concepts, and they just release them out, not getting too much effort into the design and all that. It's the actual functionality of the solutions they're providing. And we find that's exactly how Agile should work. Basically, don't think to release anything perfect at first. Just get the product out there, get people to start using it, and then you iterate over it over time and start changing gradually. So they have actually gotten to a point now that where they're now perfect, the UI experience and all that. But their counterparts, Google, Microsoft Azure, they have had the time to see AWS do things, and then they have the time to present almost perfect product because they're riding on AWS, who has the whole idea. Does that make sense? So Microsoft Azure, they have a nicer UI. GCP, they have a UI that is simple and nice as well, because not too many colors. The whole black and white sort of feel is what they have. So yeah, at the end of the day, they're all doing the same thing.
So where's more of the demand? Is it Azure or is it AWS?
So like I said yesterday, it depends on location. In US, AWS is still number one. In UK, AWS is still number one. Now, GCP and Azure, they are in the catch-up game. Oracle, Alibaba Cloud, all these other guys, they're all playing the catch-up game. But depending in some, all try so hard. Those is trying to get it.
I think you're breaking up there. I don't know if it's just on my side.
Okay, is that same for everyone else? Okay, I'm actually hearing break up myself, so okay, my voice is breaking up. Okay, how about now? If I need to disconnect and reconnect, is this breaking up?
Nope, sound good now.
Somebody's got a background noise. Please mute yourself.
Everyone else, though I wasn't hearing background noise. I hope it's not coming from my end. But yeah. So like I was trying to say that, so there was this Azure project that I worked on about 2 years ago. And the way Microsoft is now trying to play the game is because a lot of people use Microsoft products from time. Companies use Active Directory Service, Office 365, Microsoft, Outlook. So many organizations are already embedded into Microsoft's product. But when it comes to the cloud, they have started using AWS because AWS started. Now, what Microsoft is now doing to try to take over the lead is that for companies that already use Microsoft products, they build a cloud service to easily integrate with that. Now, if you want to use certain Azure services, you're going to have to bend to go to Azure. If you want to use those new services for the existing that they're already using, you're going to have to use Azure. And they give huge amount of discount for companies to get on board. In some cases, in fact, in the case of the project I worked on, Microsoft literally gave millions of pounds to the company. It meant a proof of concept of an idea that they sold to them. Okay, it was a big data project where they have to ingest all the data into some data lake and do some machine learning on top of it. So Microsoft literally gave them millions of pounds to carry on with proof of concept. The agreement that one proof of concept is acceptable and is about to go live, they have to use Microsoft Azure, and they will not only get discount on Azure product, but also get discount on all the existing Microsoft product that they're using. So it sounds like a really good idea, and the company jumped on it. Now, here's the catch. The company received the funds, do the proof of concept, and they eventually do not go ahead to implement that solution. They're going to retract all the discounts that they already give them on the existing tools that they use. And this discount alone runs into millions of dollars, depending on the location. So that's one of the strategies Microsoft is using. So I understand that at some point, Microsoft is going to probably be at par with AWS. That's the way I foresee it. So if you learn AWS, try at some point to also learn Azure. Now, I'm not providing Azure as part of this training right now. Maybe in the future, in the near future, I'll start creating content around it, projects around it, and all that. when that comes, I'll definitely let you. GCP as well, they also have their own strategies, just the same way Microsoft does, but I haven't actually worked on GCP project per se, except for my own personal direct type, because initially direct type was based on GCP, but again, the whole discount thing, we got huge discount AWS, I think about £20,000, which then made us to move away from GCP and then come on to AWS. So you see, this is how this whole game works right now. So depending on the size of the company and all that, you get a number of things. All right. So let's dive in today, and we'll try to really move fast. What time is it? Now I'm gonna put my phones on flight mode so no one would call me, and then so I can also have access to time. How do I put a flight mode here? Okay, I'll just turn this one off. All right. Okay, so this server is working. So now we have the private key. So can anyone confirm if they're able to log on to the server? Let's get the IP address. So this is IP address. I'm going to send it in Slack. And please remember, let's use Slack for chatting. Okay, don't use Zoom chat. Let's use Slack. Just because it's big in front of me, I can see it. It makes more sense. But with Zoom, I struggle a lot trying to get the controls of Zoom, and then because I have multiple screens, it's just crazy.
Sorry, I just want to say, don't forget to record put the record in.
Click on it. Thank you very much for that. That was also good. Let me do that. Record. Okay. Solomon, if you're listening to me, we might have to consider a different
recording in progress
in the future. This Zoom is driving me crazy because I really have to stop sharing to see the Zoom record button. I don't know why, but that's how this is. Share. All right, can you see my screen now? Okay, so you can actually just chat in Slack to confirm when I ask questions. And then if you can, please, it's going to help me a lot, to get communication from you guys, chat. Because I'm the only one talking, right? So it's just going to be helpful to me if I can get a lot of communication from you guys. So this is the private key I've just shared now. So I don't know how many people can actually connect to this at the same time. I'm sure there will be some limit, but let's see. Whoever is able to log into this server, let me know if anyone has been able to log on to it. Just get the private key, create a file your system. It doesn't matter what name you give it. Make sure that you the operations chmod 400, and then you connect like that. SSH-I there means identity, and you're using this identity with this user also to connect to this server. Okay, so let's see if you guys are able to do that. I just want us to keep having this habit of also connecting to the servers that I'm working at. If you need commands, in some case, I ask you to do something, or you want to check the logs, I'm trying to, run curl and see what's going on. It just makes sense for your learning. Okay. Okay. So let me connect to the server. Going to that. Oh, I already copied it. Right. So yesterday we already installed Apache 2, and as you can see, it's running. And if I do go local, we have the default Apache page up and running. So let's go back to our project 1. And by the way, what we're trying to do is to experience the different deploying applications, deploying websites, and all that. As DevOps engineers, you're going to be working with developers, helping them to deploy their code. It could be code, it could be Java, it could be Perl, Python, Node.js, JavaScript, it could be anything. You don't have to learn these programming languages. If you know it, that's fine. Some people come from programming background, software engineer, and all that's fine. But it doesn't mean that you have to know these languages to be a DevOps engineer. I don't know these languages. Like, I'm not a programmer. Okay. When I started, now I understand some of the languages: Python, a bit Java, Golang, and PHP. But doesn't mean I can't apply for a developer job because I'm not. Okay, I can't write CSS or HTML and all that. Yes, I understand them because over time I've had a lot of familiarity with them. I've interacted with a lot of developers, so now I know that. So don't be scared about programming. And I saw someone's chat because I was reading through yesterday's chat today, and I noticed there was an unanswered question, and someone said, "Oh, do we have to learn Java?" So you don't have to learn Java, but there's certain aspects of Java that you will need to learn. How to troubleshoot Java applications when they have problems. These are the kind of things you need to learn. Could you increase the font size of the printer? Okay, on the terminal. Okay, yeah, I think that will be Command plus. Yeah. Okay. I think that's good enough. Yeah. If I do ls, is that good enough? Okay. All right. So yeah, basically, so what we'll be doing today is to deploy different applications based on different languages. So we've been working on PHP. We'll carry on working on that today. We'll try to touch base on JavaScript-based applications. We'll try to see the different backend databases that work with applications. So MySQL database, which is a relational database management system, and MongoDB, which is a document-based system, database management system. There are different use cases for deciding which database management system to use. Some of these decisions, as a matter of fact, most of these decisions, you don't have to make them. Software architects and solutions architects, they make this kind of decisions where you implement them. Okay. Of course, you get to a certain level in your career where you are part of the decisions for all these things and you can consult on them, so you get to that. But for now, don't get too confused about things we're doing. Focus more on just understanding as much as you can and just follow along. If you don't understand anything, amazed how you're gonna get it. What you come to. So that's how it works, guys. So don't let this intimidate. So let me get this back up something, and then so this is the web stack. We did this today. Okay, so the part that we now need to do is the install of Sql. So as I'm doing this, make sure you have make sure you're logged on to this platform and you have the project documentation in front of you, so that as I'm doing it, you're just following along. You don't have to do it now. Obviously, when you're watching this video again, you can do that. But just follow along and understand what we're doing. What we want to do is to install MySQL Server, which can database. So basically, applications, they take input from users, and then the data that gets captured gets stored into some database. Okay, so so that the database that this application is going to use is what we are going to get to install. So let me see what's going on here. So we're just configuring database. Let's see. Okay, then we will install PHP. So what we installed yesterday was the web server Apache. All right. So PHP, what do we do next? Then create a virtual host. All right, I'll talk about that. What else we're gonna do? Then we enable a website, and that's the end of the project. So let's go back. So let's do that. Just quick run through that. And the next 30 minutes we should be done with this. All right. So all right. So what we want to do is we want to install MySQL Server. SQL is a structured query language, and there are different organizations that provide a system that you can use to store data. So MySQL is the name of a product for relational database management system. There are many other products. So there's PostgreSQL, there's Oracle, there's Microsoft SQL Server, and there's MySQL, which is what we are going to use. So MySQL is actually open source, and there is a commercial version of it, which Oracle actually bought some years ago.
Recording in progress.
Complete line. How do you exit? So Uzo is asking the complete after installing complete. How do you exit? I'm sort of confused with that. I'm not sure what that means. I'm able to fill into. So Faisal is not able to join. So Solomon, would you please help him out? All right. So then one of the things that we have to keep in mind, sometimes you have to multitask. So we are about to projects. It's very important to know the end goal before you start. You can see what I literally went through the projects to see, okay, what are we doing? What do we need to do? That's how you literally do for every implementation. You want to know the end goal, right? And then you go back and start implementing them. The reason for that is so that if you can find opportunities to multitask, you can do that. You know that if you want to install something on the application, sometimes it might take a bit of time. If there's something else you can do on the side to allow it to keep running, you can do that. In case it's fine, but we'll see some use case. Okay, so we've installed MySQL. And what we need to do is to run this command, which basically configures secure MySQL. Now, I know what you may be wondering now is, okay, how do I even know all these commands? Do I have to know them? Well, not exactly, because the thing you want to, as long as it's some product that's available online, it has its own documentation. Okay, so if you go to Google name the distribution of Linux, or make sure you always put version of what you're doing. Usually have different tons of information upon this, and you can pretty much click one of them and go through the documentation and do the same thing. All right, and you literally copy and paste. You can see the same thing I ran just now. See that? It's there. Now, up from using other people's websites to get documentation for things, sometimes you would use the actual product's documentation site to get things done. So, for example, when we start working on Terraform, let me just quickly show you that. So you can see they have their own docs site. If you click on docs, everything you want to do is on their site. Everything. Okay. Actually, let me just do this. Let's say I'm working on. Let me just think of something. Vault provider, Terraform. Maybe I want to implement a vault provider. I just put that. Go to Terraform's site. What happens is they have documentations on how to do things, code examples, they pretty much copy paste away with. So why am I showing this? You don't have to try to memorize things. What's most important is to understand the concept behind the architecture, the tool that you're, and then rely on documentation for the tool to carry on. Okay, so that's one of the things that makes this job easy, thanks to the internet, right? Okay, so I'm going to copy this, go here. So this is done. I can either do clear to clear screen or do Control L. Most of the time, so follow the prompt. So it's saying secure the MySQL server and connect to MySQL using a blank password. Validate password components. Can use test password. So this is basically secure data. Medium to and all that. Okay, but because we're doing testing, I don't want to do that so that we don't waste time trying to get complex passwords. So let's set the password for root. So it's saying we should set the password for root. Let me just put a simple put. Okay, because it was too large, couldn't see what was below. So it says re-enter password. Do you continue with password provided? Yes. Remove non-users. That's fine. Disallow root login. Get to the whole concept of logging remotely to a database server. And this is a very strong concept that you need to and people fused with that. And that's the whole project 5, which we will go through shortly. So now it's asking us, do we want people to log into our database using the root user remotely? To secure your database, you don't want to allow that, because what that means is if a hacker, for whatever reason, is able to get hold of the root password database, they can literally do anything. Root has limitless can access all the database data. So you want to your all right.
No, you're breaking up again.
Yeah, I'm breaking up. I'm still breaking up. Please confirm. I'm still breaking up.
Not now. You're not breaking up now.
You're mute now.
Okay, so again. Can you see my screen? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, Darren.
We can hear you, but the screen is not showing.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can hear you now and see you.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to share my screen again. Apologies for this whole internet thing. I'll try to sort it out this week. Probably have to change provider. We'll see. We'll see about that. Okay. So so we're talking about in remotely into the database. So this is my SQL secure installation is giving us prompts to decide how we want to configure our database. So that's basically what's going on here. Okay. So yes, so no, I don't want anyone to log in remotely with root. I want people to get onto the server first before they log on to the database. So if you are on your PC, you won't be able to go directly to the database engine using root user. You could do that with another user that will create, but not with root. Okay, that's basically what's going on here. So I'll say no for that. And then remove test database. Oops, what's going on? Who's writing stuff? Here's removed database. Is someone going to my PC remotely? I don't know how this yellow is coming out. Reload privilege tables now. So everything that we have talked about. Do we want to reload it? Yes. And then you can see it is all done. So let's back to our documentation and see what we have to do. So this is all the things that we've gone through right now. So the next thing is, I mean, based on this documentation, we actually did strong password, but we didn't do that here. So to log on to the database, you can just do sudo MySQL, and now we're able to log on to the database engine. So if you notice, the shell here is the where we run Linux commands to do things, right? ls, pwd, vi, and all that. But if you notice, now we have a prompt for MySQL. So we're no longer on the terminal. We're now into a MySQL prompt. So your regular Linux is no longer going to work. So for example, if I type ls, you can see it's not doing what I would expect it to do. And this is MySQL saying, well, you've typed ls, you need termination for me to now execute what you typed. Once I give it the termination and execute it, it's going to parse it and decide if it's good or not. If it's good, it works. If it's not good, we'll see an error. So the termination is the semicolon here. And if I do that, you would see that there's going to be an error saying you have an error in your SQL syntax. So it's expect SQL commands, not Linux commands, okay? So don't get confused with this, all right? So now let's try to run an SQL command and see what happens. So if I do show databases, so this is an SQL command that is specific to MySQL, if that makes sense. Remember, I mentioned that there are different relational database management systems. There's Oracle, MySQL, Postgres, and all that. They all have their own specific commands that their software understands. But there is a standard that cuts across all of them, and it's called the ANSI standard. So the ANSI standard basically means that regardless of the database management system, that command is going to work. It doesn't matter if it's Oracle, if it's Sql Server, or MySQL. Okay. Now, show databases is not part of the ANSI. This is only relevant to MySQL. Okay. So this is going to work with this. If you type show database in Sql Server, for example, I'm not sure it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work. You have to probably write some select statements to get the databases there. So that's sort of, am I still breaking up? Can you hear me? I hope we're not having that problem anymore. All right.
You hear you fine. See.
Oh, brilliant, great. So show databases has worked for this, and we can see that we have a database called SQL. There are some databases that already exist, by virtue of installing this software. So we have the information schema, performance schema. These are inbuilt databases that the tool uses to store data and do what it has to do. Okay. So yeah, now we have a database. So that means we can configure our applications to connect to this database to store data. Make sense? So that's what we're doing. All right. So let's go back to documentation and see what's going on. So we can exit, and the next will be to, let's see, the console here, to install PHP. So this particular, we're not doing too much about SQL. It's just for you to install it and see what's going on. You know, just to have basic familiarity with that. We're going to do a lot of stuff with it. Now, this is installing PHP. So because application, so this is assuming that you're a DevOps engineer working within a team that builds a software using PHP language. So if you were asked to then provide an environment for developers to work, it's pretty much what you're going to be doing. You know, set up the environment, install tools that application developers can then deploy the applications onto it. And by the way, it's exactly the same thing I said before. If you need to do this, go on Google, type, search, you will have the exact commands that you need. If you're not relying on some random people writing out blog posts out there, go to the official documentation of the tool and you will get you know, the up-to-date information about what exactly is wrong for the required Linux operating system. Always remember this. I'll keep on reiterating this because these are the things that will give you challenges and make you struggle in your career. So if you're doing something, make sure you specify the version of the Linux server and the distribution. That's when you get the right command, because on other Linux distributions, the command may have some variations. Okay, so very important. So what's going on here is we want to install PHP and a few other libraries. So this is PHP MySQL. So this is not the MySQL that we installed previously. This is actually like a helper tool or like a client tool that PHP uses to connect to MySQL. Okay, think of it as a driver that's the application
Recording progress.
directory where we keep our code. So I'm going to clear my screen. By the way, can anyone confirm they're able to log on to permission? Let me see if there are chats waiting for me. Okay. Oh, someone's asking for the public IP of the server. So I sent it before. So let me just go back up to post that. So I just posted a public IP. All right, there you go. So let's make this directory. So does anyone understand what's going on here? If you understand this, please just put it in the chat section and just tell me what's going on. What's this var? What's this WW? What's this project LAM? I'd like to know if you understand that. So put it in the chat, and I'm going to run this command. Also, tell me what you understand about this command. Tell me what's going on here. Okay, I'm still going to explain it, but it'll be nice for you to tell me if you do understand. And then I'll do this. Well, I won't execute this yet. I'll just put it in there. So no one is actually typing anything. I guess no one knows what's going on there. Okay. So, all right, someone wants to say something?
Yeah. Then the first command, you are creating a project LAMP folder in the var www directory. That's what you're doing, the first command.
Okay, good.
And the second command, you are like changing ownership at using environment variable, meaning the active user. So you're changing ownership to the active user to own that folder.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks a lot for that. So what's going on? So let me just put a hash symbol here so that we won't execute that. So what's going on here, like he just explained, is that if I do ls on the root directory, so / is the root directory on a Linux server, right? You would see there are a bunch of directories. So these are all, and inside the root directory, there's a directory called var. So if I do ls on var, you can see it has its own directories. Okay. Now inside var, there is a folder called www. All right. So let's have a look at that. So we have var, and then we have www. As you can see, there is a folder there called HTML, and we have now created our own folder called Project LAMP. Okay.
Hey, Barry, I was able to log onto the server.
Oh, great. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. So, so how many people do we have that's able to log onto the server? Let me know how many people were able to. Okay, so this is doing, we have created this folder. Right now, it's not bringing about anything when because it doesn't have anything. We haven't done anything in it. But if I do ls and put some flags to ls command and say -latr and hit enter, what you see is it says dot and it says dot dot. Dot dot is the folder, the parent folder. So www is a parent to Project LAMP. var is a parent to www. That makes sense? So basically, the parent folder, which is, if I do, for example, actually, let's go into this folder. This is some of the things that would make us spend time on each session, but it's actually very important that I explain these things, to a lot of people. All right, so if I want to go to, now I'm in var www project lamp. If I do cd space dot dot, what happens is it just takes me to the parent folder, which is www. So if I do ls latr, you can see that the permission on what's inside this folder is root, as you can see, root. Okay. So what am I getting at? When I did ls minus latr on project lamp, you can see that it has root on the parent folder, because when I do dot dot, it takes me to the parent folder and it tells me the permission on it. So it is owned by a user called root and a group called root. But dot is the current folder which I am currently in, whether I'm running ls on it or I have cd'd into it. Because I have done ls on project lamp, it's telling me that the permission on project lamp is the owner is Ubuntu and the group called Ubuntu. And that's what's going on here. So I had to do all of that to explain what's going on here. So I changed the permission. Recursively is this hyphen capital R to say that the user, currently logged on user, and the group for this user, I know that is called Ubuntu because it's the same name. So that's why I can reuse the same variable. Okay, how do I know that we can use this variable? This is actually an inbuilt variable whereby if I do echo $user, it's going to give me back the name, all right, of the currently logged on user. So that's what's going on here. All right. So Ubuntu. So this command right here is essentially this. Let me copy this, paste this, and then if I remove that and I do Ubuntu : Ubuntu, this is the same thing as what happened before. But it's important you understand this because it's part of what you do
Progress.
By the way, the ones in blue are folders, the ones in white are files. And how do I know? If I do ls-latr, you can see that this also tells me some information about the permission running. Now the first part here says D, and that's a directory. You can see the ones in blue are directories, and also says directory. The ones here doesn't have D, so obviously the files. So there are different and that's a directory. Different types of files, and then it will also tell you if it's a link. And the operation we want to do is on sites available. Okay, if you notice, we have mods available, mods enabled. We have site available, site enabled. So Apache operation file how you want things to go based on business requirements, of course. So with Apache, you can configure things. Remember yesterday I mentioned about load balancers, web servers, reverse proxies. These are the configuration files that you would need to tweak to decide what you're trying to configure Apache for. Now, there's also mods. So mods are modules. So think about if you want to extend the functionality of Apache. Let's say for whatever weird reason, you're really you're a genius and you know the code that is running behind Apache, and they don't have a feature that you want, and you want to be able to extend that functionality of Apache. So you can actually write your own module and then put the module in there and then extend the functionality to satisfy what you want. There are many other people have written a lot of modules. If we look into this folder, okay, inside Apache 2, if I check mods available, you can see these are different functionality of Apache. You can see proxy TCP, proxy HTTP2, they all do different things, cache, status, and all that. Okay, so these are things that you can also read up on Apache's website, and you will find a lot of information about this. So sometimes, as an engineer, there's a requirement to do some maybe a WAF configuration. There's some web application firewall, and you need to be able to do some firewall from an application perspective. Remember yesterday we talked about firewalls. We did firewall configuration from AWS network perspective. And then I talked about doing further firewall configuration on the Linux server. Okay, so that if you're able to bypass the AWS network and you get onto the server, you can do malicious things, right? So you can configure further firewall on the server to control all this kind of thing. Now, there's still another layer of firewall that you can do from the application, and that's the WAF. That's web application firewall. So you can tweak Apache configuration for things like that. Okay, and then if there are no modules available to do this kind of things, you know, you can get the module and then put them in this folder to make it available. But the fact that all these modules are here does not mean that they are enabled. So that's the reason we have another folder called mods enabled. So to know which modules are enabled, you would see here, these are the modules that are now enabled. Okay, so that's the way Apache works. So similarly, for site, if you want to configure virtual site, which is additional sites on your web server, there is a site available folder, and there's also a site enabled folder. So the site available folder is to say, well, now I can configure my Project LAMP site. I can configure the ecom site and the ecom delivery site, but it doesn't mean it's enabled. Okay, so to then enable it, I'll just have to put the configuration file for each of the servers, for the each of the websites rather, in the relevant folder. So which is what we're doing here. So I've had to explain all that so that you understand what we're doing, not just to copy and paste per se. All right. So, and by the way, this is proper DevOps work, right? So when we're talking about things that are not really related to DevOps, if it's more focused on developers, I'll let you know so that you don't really focus too much on it. But this do focus on it. Okay, so what we want to do is to configure a site and enable it. So let's get the content for this. So this is the virtual host that we're going to configure. I'm going to copy that. And yeah, let's see if someone has answered my question on VI. Oh, thank you. You guys are awesome. So everyone has actually said the same thing. So VI stands for Virtual Instrument, which is a text editor. Good. Text editor. Thank you very much, guys. So it's a text editor, and we can use it to edit. It's just like Notepad. You know, you have on your laptop, you can open up Notepad and write things and all that. But because this is not a GUI, a graphical user interface, we have to find a way to be able to edit text, because we're going to be dealing with text a lot, right? Writing configurations and doing all these things. So to edit this file, we use VI to open the file. Now, if you are on this server, actually, let's do a bit of experiment. If you're logged onto this server, you can actually go to this folder, okay, and run ls-latr on this folder, okay, and just post the content in the chat. But do that after I have opened it. So now I've opened it. I haven't saved the file. It's just open. Do ls-latr on that folder, post it in the chat, and then I'll explain to you there's something you're going to see there, and then you see what that means. So to begin to write something in this open folder, because you can see it's blank, there's nothing in there because it's now ready for us to start typing in. So I need to press I for insert mode. You can see it says insert. That means I can now start typing things, right? So I've copied the contents that I want inside. I'm going to paste it. Let's get that out. So for those who have been able to log onto the server, I need to go to that folder and do an ls on it. I can connect to my own VM on AWS using my own and not your Mehboob. I'm confused. I don't understand. Okay, so I think it's because of what I'm doing. I'm not able to process too many things at the same time. So we have server name. So this is the server name we're configuring. This is our virtual host, and it's going to be listening on port 80. Okay. So server name, and this is the alias. So www.projectlam. Okay. Of course, this is not going to work because we don't own this domain. So what I would do is, it's still going to work. We just have to comment that out. I think it's part of the documentation here that says, see, there somewhere. I'll leave it anyway. So no one, okay, let me just go onto the server and just show you what I intended. Alrighty. SSH. Right. Is it because we have too many people already connected to the server? I'm suspecting that's the reason I'm not able to connect. Okay, no. All right, so ls etc Apache sites enabled. All right. No, is it site enabled? Yeah. Okay. All right, let me, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart this. And let's see if it has it. It doesn't have it. Okay, let's see. Something I'm looking for. So it's sites available. That's probably why. Sites available. Even that is not showing it. Okay. Let's go back in the CD desktop. And let's try to copy this again. Ah, right, okay. This is what I was looking for. So it says here, found a swap file, because remember I opened this file for writing previously, okay? And I didn't do anything with it. I pasted it, but I didn't save it. I just restarted the session, which means I disconnected myself. And then it says there is a file. So let me do this. I don't know why it didn't show me previously. Ah, I know why. My bad.
If you haven't saved, is it because you haven't saved it?
No. It's because I didn't put A. It's because I didn't put A in the flag. If you notice, the flag I passed in here was LTR. I'm actually supposed to put A so that it will show me hidden files. Okay, because it's actually a hidden file. Can you see that? So every hidden file has a prefix of dot to it. So when you list, it doesn't show it because it's, think of it as like a protected file. No one should delete it, basically. So this is a hidden file that gets created. So when you open up a file for writing, the OS would create this file and put an extension .swap, .swp, like swap. And if I do a cat on that, oh, it's actually a directory. So, oops. / okay. And then let's see, what's this? It's a file. Permission denied. To sudo. See, it's a binary file sort of, but it still holds the content of what I was trying to write. You can see the, server admin, the same thing. So the file is not saved, okay? And that's to tell you that the Beam tool is a program and it has its own ways of working. When you open up a file for writing, it's sort of key to swap for it. So when you're done writing and you save it, okay, it deletes the swap file. Now I'm trying to open the same file, but it's giving me this prompt to say, look, someone is trying to write to this file. Are you sure you really want to continue writing to it? Because then imagine two people writing to the same file at the same time. It doesn't really make sense, except you're using a tool like Git to manage the versions, So that's what's going on here. So what I'm going to, whenever you see this kind of information, if you're sure of what you're doing and you're probably the same person working on it, you can just safely delete the swap file. Okay, so we can just do remove sudo remove to remove that file, and then I can let me see. Yeah. So let me just go out, get out of here, and try to open it again. And now it's not giving me that prompt again. So this is just to show you a bit of the inner workings of the VI tool. All right, so let's put back in there. Then we have this, and then we can save that. Save is escape : so escape : W and Q. Okay, you can put an exclamation mark as well. So this configuration is saying this is our website and the error. So there's a variable. So this is a variable, just like this all the time that we use user. There's a variable that says Apache logger. So Apache has its own variable that it's able to interpret to a certain directory, and it's a configurable thing as well. You can change the default setting. All right, but there's really no point changing it, because you can just leave it at that and then tell it where you want your error files to be written to. You can also error to be project lam -error.log to show if you have multiple websites, to show the error for that particular site, and then access .log as well to log every time someone tries to access the server or the website. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and then what's the next thing? So this here tells you the escape : WQ thing, and now we can list, and now we have the project lamp. So to see the content, you can do cat on that / project lamp, and that's the content that we've just written inside. Okay, so there's this command that says to enable the virtual host, so you can run this. And by the way, all these things you can always get them on the official documentation for the tool. Enabling sites project lamp to activate the new configuration. You need to run this. So remember, we used systemctl yesterday. You're going to be using it a lot. So it's already told you what you need to do. Just copy it, paste it, and we have this error because we need to run it as an elevated user with sudo permission. So we do that using sudo, and that's it. So what's the next thing we need to do? We need to disable the default page, because remember, when we go to this website, so let's use the public DNS. It shows this Ubuntu default page. So we need to disable this so that we can now enable our own. Okay. Now let me just quickly show you where this code is. All right. So it shows it here. You can see it says located at var www.html index.html. So let's have a look at that. So ls, this is the file. It's on this server in this directory. Remember, we also have our own project lamp, but the default website is in this folder right here. So if we do a cat on this file, actually let's not use cat. We've used cat before, so gradually you're going to start learning the different Linux commands. So let's do a less on this, because less will just show you a part of the file if it's a very huge file, rather than dumping the whole thing to the screen. And then you can just hit on enter for like scroll down, basically. So the same web page we're looking at, this is the code. This is the HTML code that renders that default page. Okay. So this is what we now need to disable. Let me just cancel that. So we now need to disable that default page. And by the way, see this 00 the default. Let me just cancel this. So let me go back to that etc Apache 2. And if you watch my Linux videos, you'll understand that etc folder is where you keep configuration files. And then in sites available, you can see this 00 default, just like we created our own virtual host. This is the virtual host for the default website. But let's have a look at it. 00. And then let's cut it out. So you can see, similar to what we did, we have the error log and custom log for the access log also in there. You can see the server, the document root here that says var www.html. So that's where the application code is. Okay, let's compare that with the one that we put up there. So you can see we also have our own document root, which is var www project lamp, and in their own case, they have in var HTML. You see how this is going. So if you want to add more applications to this server, you just create virtual host, do the configuration that tells you where it should log the error, where it should log the access, and where to find the application code. Okay, and that's what's going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to disable the default sites with this command. Okay, so let's do that. And then we've done that, and we need to reload it through systemctl again. And I keep forgetting that this has to be done using sudo. And that's done. If we go back here, expect it not to be anymore. Can you see that? Now it's disabled. Okay, so let's go back. So there's always a tool to check your configuration, because it's possible you put some bad text inside your configuration file. So you want to check if it if your configuration is correct or not. So sudo apache config test, you can see syntax okay. If we messed up with the file, that will tell us that the syntax is bad. So someone is asking, why is it that when you use sudo, it is not prompting you to put password? That's a very good question. Now that is a configurable thing. So you can configure your server to prompt for password from certain users. And it's possible to also configure it to not prompt for certain users. Now, when we set up our EC2 instance, remember we didn't provide any password. Without a password, and imagine if it was prompting us for password, what password are we going to put? We won't be able to provide password. And what that means is we won't be able to use sudo, right? So, and that's okay in this situation because first of all, the Ubuntu user is a super user. If you create additional users on your Linux system, you can configure those users to always provide password when they're doing sudo. See that? So these are the configurable things that you can watch out for, and you can actually check on online how to configure sudo for password. And by the way, on Linux, everything is file based. You just configure things using a file. So that particular configuration, let me see, etc sudos. So there's a file called sudos file. Okay, so this is the file that you will configure for that particular thing you're asking for. So if I do sudo cat on etc sudos, you can see root, it has all, okay, admin. So anyone in the admin group, they can do everything. Okay, so these are basic configurations. And by the way, this file is a very sensitive file. If you mess up with this file, it can shut you out of this server and you will never be able to log onto it again. except you have physical access to the server. And because it's a virtual server, you don't have physical access to it. So this is something that one of those files that you really need to know what you're doing before you mess it up. Okay, so you can actually do some Google search to see, and you can try that out. So that's all right. It's actually a very good question. Something to practice and to just give you some more experience on the Linux system. So system sits here. We've done our reload. So what we want to do is to now create our own index.html so that we can present to the server something, right? So because right now, when we do a refresh, it's just showing this, nothing's going on. All right, so let's have a look at what this command is doing. So sudo, you know what sudo does? Echo, I believe you do know what echo does as well. It's just going to echo, you know, from the word echo itself, echo whatever you tell it to do, right? So what we're saying to echo all of this into this file. See that? So echo everything here, and then this greater than or anchor sign is basically to say that just post it into this file. All right. Project. So let's quickly go through what's going on here. Lamb from hosting. Excuse me. So look at this. We've actually wrapped something in a variable. Okay, it's a little bit tricky, but also not very tricky. So inside this $, because you know $sign is what you basically use to represent a variable, right? So remember the other time when I did, I'm going to go into my history to bring back a previous command that I used. So I'm going to do Control R. You can see it says reverse I search, and I'm going to do echo because I know I typed echo before, but it's not the first one it's suggesting to me. I just typed echo. This is what I typed, but it's recommending to me what I just, you know, pasted here. But that's not what I'm interested in. So if I do Control R again, it will go into the history and find the next available one. Another Control R, but it's actually got it to the end. For some reason, it's not there. Maybe, oh, I remember because I exited this session and I logged in again when we were doing that VI thing. So it must have lost it. But if you type history, you will see all the commands that I've been running, right? So I wanted to use the history to get something back. But what I wanted to show you is echo.user. Remember when we did this, it gave us Ubuntu. Now, looking at this, $ and then curl -s and then all of this. So what does this mean? Let's take this command and just run it. I didn't actually run this because there's a hash symbol here. Anything with a hash symbol, it won't run it. Okay, so bear that in mind. So curl -s. We'll talk about this curl -s shortly, but let's run this and see what it gives. So it gives us the public DNS for this server. And how is it able to get that? AWS provides what we call metadata. Metadata is data about data. Okay, so if you have data, you need some additional data that actually represents that particular data. For example, I'm just a human being, but I have certain characteristics, like I have a name, I have height, I have color, I have what's it called, you know, so many things about me. Now, all those additional things about me is my metadata. Okay, so there are certain additional things about this server that AWS provides through an API. So if I do curl against this, so let's do curl -s against that. Actually, let me cancel this. Okay, so that you can see everything clearly. So if I do this, so Coral-S against the metadata and without providing this public host name, it's going to bring me, give back to me all the different metadata about this server. Okay, and the one that I have just requested for is the public host name. See that? Public host name. So imagine if I put AMI ID, right? So it says not found. Okay, let's find something else. Let's put instance ID. Says not found. Oh no, I was wondering because I have host name. It is actually supposed to be here. So metadata instance ID. Now we have the instance ID. That's the instance ID. We can check that. So it ends in 133, right? So let's go to this. You can see that 133. That's the instance ID. Okay. So this is very important for automation. You remember I talked about variable just now. We can actually use variables to dynamically get things. Imagine if this server crashes and we need the public host name to dynamically be populated. What's going to happen is anytime there's a new service or server coming up, it's just going to dynamically get the public host name, right? So that's what's going on here. I just wanted to quickly explain that to you, so you don't get confused with some of the commands that you're running, and it just makes sense. All right. So we have that dynamically getting the public host name, and then we're continuing with the sentence. And then we have another curl doing getting the public IPv4, and then we're writing all of that. Let's do that. So we've done that. That. And if we so imagine this is have spent the last 3 months writing code and all of that, and you deploy that one more. I'll get to that. So let's do that. This. So let's enable options. You can see here more enabled in Apache. So once enabled, let's see. PHP forward because we are configuring for PHP application, right? So we can do PHP here and then just put, we can move this and put index.html right here. Okay. And then let's save this. And let's reload Apache. And what we're going to do is we're going to now write a new file called index.php, and we will put this code in here. So this is a PHP code. You don't have to worry much about this. This is what developers do. But this is a PHP function. So how you would know it's a function is this bracket. So a function is actually, so this PHP info function is wrapping around a set of code. It might actually be sort of maybe 50 lines of code that is running behind this single line function, okay? So let's save that, and then we can, let's refresh this page, and we will see this. So we've enabled PHP by simply putting a PHP code and then changing the order in which Apache looks for an application file. So we don't want it to look for HTML, we want it to actually look for a PHP code. Some website you will go to, you will just see they have something / maybe index.php. Even if I do this, it's still going to render the same page because that's essentially what's going on. You can see it's loaded the index.php and it's still bringing about the same thing. But even if I didn't do that, it's it would understand that's like the index. Index is like the beginning, the first, you know. So yeah, so we've completed project 1 basically, and congratulations to you guys. Any questions for now? Lashley is asking escape sequence. That mean escape sequence? I don't know. All right, so let's move on quickly to project 2 so that let me see what time it is. Are you guys still happy to carry on? Let me know. Project 2, web stack implementation LAMP. Okay. Okay, so let's have a 5 minutes break. Yeah, so everyone can have a 5 minutes break, and then we'll come back in 5 minutes. So in the meantime, let me just quickly go through this and let's see if we can pause the recording.
Recording stopped. So Charles is asking if you're still supposed to upload your projects. So I would say, so let me tell you the whole purpose of having you to write your project. It's just to get you to rethink what you're doing, and it helps you to retain information. Because let's face it, it's hard to remember these things because it's completely new to you. You know, it's hard to just remember. So it does two things. It helps you to reiterate your knowledge by rewriting the documentation. It also helps you to make references to them in the future, because when you've done something, you know you've done it, and you need to do a project, a similar project in the future, you could easily just go to it. So yes, you can write your project, put it on GitHub. Yes, it's off because we're on break. I'll put it back on, Flora. Thanks. So so do your project, put it on GitHub, all right, and just keep documenting your projects, basically. Okay, so we're going to be back in 2 minutes. All right. Okay, so Tosin is asking how to log on to the server. So I believe you have access to the private key. So someone can please share the private key again. And then the new IP address for the server is that. So I've just sent it in on Slack so that you can then use it to access the new server that we have. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so I guess we can crack on. Is everybody back? And by the way, I hope you guys are making use of the stand-up channel. It is very important for you guys to actually consider doing that. It works for a lot of people, and I think it will work for you as well. So basically, because it's not easy to be committed to learning every day. I mean, what you're doing is you're literally trying to build skills that people have built for many years. You're trying to do that in 3 months, 6 months. it means a lot of work. And it's not easy for us. So what we do is to find a way to check yourself every day. On stand-up channel, put in there what you do every single day. We only meet 2 to 3 hours Saturdays and Sundays. On Monday, what are you doing? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even if it's 2 hours every day, you're able to spend watching videos, trying to catch up. Whatever you do on each day, put it in the stand-up channel. Even if you don't do anything, put it there. Like, I haven't done anything today, put it there. You do that day 1, day 2, day 3, you're literally reminding yourself that I haven't done anything in 3 days, I haven't achieved anything in 3 days. Also, when you see other people doing things, even if you're too tired, you're gingered, you're encouraged to get up, like, man, my mates are making progress, I need to make progress as well. It's not a competition, but it's just a way to help you drive yourself further. And that's the purpose of that stand-up channel. So if you're not part of the stand-up channel, you can actually search for stand-up in Slack and add yourself to it. If you can't do that, reach out to Solomon. He's going to help you. Make sure you're in that channel and you're always putting your update there every day, every single day, whatever you work on, put it there and begin to see your progress. All right. So can we get back on? Okay. Let's get going. The connect. Okay, yeah, you want to see the connect screen for this server? Yep. I can send this to you as well. If you've named this your private key the same as I have, then you'll be able to log on to it. Thanks, Solomon, for posting that. You can just click on the stand-up channel and add yourself to it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to deploy a LAMP stack. Okay, so what does LAMP stand for? So project 2 covers concept as project 1, very similar concept. All right, and what you're now going to do is, rather than use Apache, we're going to use Nginx, which is another tool that does pretty much the same thing as Apache, but they have their strengths and weaknesses. And a very good research you might want to do is differences between Apache and Nginx. I mean, an interviewer might be interested in your opinion. I want to know what you have to say about this. You might want to read up something like this, and just to get a feel of what the differences are between them. You know.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt, Zare. Is the recording back on?
Recording in progress.
Thanks, Flora. Thanks. All right, that helps a lot. In fact, I think I'm going to name you the class master for this batch, because you keep prompting me for the recording, and that's really good, really helpful. Okay. So the recording is back on, and I was just saying that we're about to start on Nginx, part of web stack implementation. It's very similar to what we did with Apache. It's just that we're using another tool now, which is called Nginx. And I said that it will be an interesting read for you to go online, Google, and do a quick search of differences between Apache and Nginx, because some interviewers might be interested to just pick your brains and know what you feel about it, and what sort of standpoint you have. Some people think that one is better for static content, while the other is better for dynamic content. You might want to read up on this. What is the static content? What is the dynamic content? How do you differentiate between them? What makes it better for dynamic and static? All these things have a read through, and also have a read of understanding how Nginx operates. Okay, so one works synchronously, asynchronously, you know, all these terminologies. You just have to start picking them gradually, okay? All right. So let me just read Slack and see if there are messages waiting for me. Not really. So we can just go on. So, okay. So Uzo is stuck there. If anyone can actually help Uzo, that would be great, so that I can carry on with the lessons. Looks like my PC is stuck. Not able to click, I wonder. Okay. All right. So what do we have to do here? We're gonna log on to our server. And then we're gonna have to update and install Nginx. So can someone do this so that, yeah, is anyone able to log on to the server, run an apt update, and let us know when it's done? And can another person run apt install? So basically, just signify in the channel first who is doing what, so that no one else would do the same thing, basically. Okay.
Hey, Derek.
Hi.
Yeah, I just want to make a point something out. I don't want anybody to get messed up on project 2. In project 2, it tells you when you go to your AWS account to spin up an EC2 instance of T2 Nano. Actually, you want to use the same we use in project 1, because T2 Nano doesn't have enough memory when you come to installing SQL Server.
Yeah. Thanks for that. That's a very good point. Yeah, because if you don't have enough memory, it's just gonna keep hanging, and you know, you stop. Thanks for that. So someone is doing. Let's know who's doing apt updates, and maybe we just said you have each of them. Someone else. I want someone else to do apt install Nginx. And then once you've done that, send us the status of your Nginx, and let's just know that that's go. So what we would need to do is to just go to the IP address. So let me just go to the DNS for this. So we'll wait. Okay, so yeah, thanks for that. You can see that that is done, and then it's going to do the installation of Nginx. Awesome. Base, and let's know when that is done. I'll keep preparing. Oh, yeah. So we have our Nginx set up. So this is our web server that's ready to go. And let's see what the next thing is. So next thing is to so someone needs to do an installation. So we're going to spend some more time. And then another person should do the SQL installation. We did that previously. So before you run any code, anything on the actual server, it's important for you to put it in the Slack channel so that we know that someone is already doing something, okay? So, and we need to be fast about this because of time, so that we can get things going. Thank you very much, Mafemi. Awesome. Is anyone doing MySQL Server installation and MySQL secure installation? Is anyone doing that? Okay, maybe thanks. You're going to do MySQL Server install. And who's doing the secure installation? Anyone wants to volunteer? Anyone bold enough to give it a go? All I want to do is I just want to run through my SQL, and I will be able to get onto the SQL prompt. So it's not installed yet. So we're waiting for that. And once that is done, the next thing is going to install PHP. And who's going to do that? Let's get someone else prepared to do PHP. No one has confirmed if they're doing a secure installation. So if no one is going to do that, if maybe will volunteer, or I will do it. Come on, guys. We have over 40 people on this call. We should at least have someone bold enough to want to start taking the lead. Okay. So let's check if all is installed, which MySQL. Awesome. We have MySQL installation done, but do we have the... Oh, brilliant. Thank you. So we have MySQL configured as well. So if I do show databases, databases, oh yeah, awesome. So we have that installed as well. Now take note, we're actually not doing anything with MySQL, and we're just installing it. So we haven't really configured any application or anything to connect to it. So we'll get to all of that. Okay, so who's doing PHP installation? Anyone volunteering for that? Okay, Chad, thanks. So let's get you on that. So this part, configuring Nginx to use PHP processor. Now, Apache works with PHP naturally without much configuration. It works with PHP. But with Nginx, you're going to have to ensure that you put some configuration in place to be able to use to work with PHP, and that's this configuration that we're doing here. All right, so it's similar to what we've done in Project One. Really, all of this is really similar, and we have some explanations to what's going on in this configuration file here. All right, so remember that virtual host file that we created for Project LAMP website. Remember that, where we had to create this root folder. In Apache, we use document root, if you remember. But in Nginx, the syntax is a little bit different. So it says here, server is listening on port 80. Actually, let me put it side by side so that we can just do some comparison side by side. So if you notice here, we have virtual host configuration here. The syntax is different. You can see here, it looks like a bit like JSON, right? Similar to JSON. And then actually, it's actually JSON, isn't it? No, it's not JSON syntax. It's its own syntax. It just looks like JSON. All right. So document root says where the root folder is, and here it just says root, and then it has that. Okay. So this is kind of like, you know, where we have AWS and we have Azure and GCP. They're all doing the same thing, but you know, in their own specific way. And that's what's going on here, right? So someone wants to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say I need the IP address that way I can install the PHP.
Oh yeah. So the IP address, I think someone. Okay, you can actually use the public DNS as well. So I've sent that. All right, thanks, Mahbub. So like I was trying to compare now, and you can see here, index, it shows the index.html, Remember where we had to configure that Apache thing where we had to change the order of PHP file, HTML file. That's similar to what's going on here. Okay, and then it says location, to include fast CGI. So fast CGI is that PHP element that allows Nginx to work with it so that it can benefit from the speed that Nginx provides. And if you look at all this, you can read all this to understand each of this section and what it's doing. All right. So if you have access to this platform, you can actually go through this documentation. So let's quickly do this configuration here. So let me just copy this. All right, so let me exit that and let's create this folder. And you do know what's going on here, right? Because we've done it before. And then, okay, so Nano is another text editor, just like VI. All right, you choose what works for you. I use VI all the time, so I'm not a Nano fan. I have a colleague, we used to work together. He's a Nano fan, so we used to joke a lot about these things. All right, and then we can put this in here. Do you want to go on mute, whoever is not on mute? Okay, so here, what's going on is we want to activate our site enable. So remember when we were talking about site available, site enabled in Apache, and we had to run some A2 and site code command to enable our own virtual host and disable the default, but we're going to do it manually. So we're going to create symbolic link to enable our site. So what's going to happen is, first of all, let's see. So we have sites available folder, which we already have our project LAMP configuration. So if I do project LAMP and let's do head. So there is a command called head. It just shows the head part of the file, and sometimes you can use tail and show the last part of the file. You can see here it didn't start from the beginning, started from the end, but this one here started from the top. So that's the difference between. So sometimes depending on what you want to do with a file, you can use less, you can use cat, use head, tail, So yeah, so we have this content in these files, and what we want to do is we want to now do a symbolic link to link this file in this to link. Okay, so first of all, let me show you. In site enabled, what do we have there? We don't have anything other than the default, and that is this page. Remember that Apache default page we have. This is the Nginx equivalent, and by default, this is what they have enabled. Okay, but what they've done is they've actually done a symbolic link into site available. So the file itself is in site available folder. Site available, it has default, okay? But in site enabled, let me clear the screen so you can see. In site enabled, we don't have our own project LAMP yet. So what we're going to do similar thing, do a symbolic link, right? You can see here it says L, it's a link. It's not an actual file, okay? If this file gets deleted, the file in site available, this link will no longer work because you can see here it's pointing to this file. It's empty. Okay, it's nothing. It's just a reference to something, and that's what we're going to do. So rather than creating a new file in site enable, if we did that, it will work, but then we have to manage two different files. What happens when the configuration in site enabled is different from the configuration in site enabled is different from the one in site available? Then we'll have to start managing. Every time we'll make a change in one folder, we have to make the change in another folder, I mean the file in each of those folders. It makes no sense. So we can create a link to one so that we can only make change in one place, and that will give us the confidence that always makes sense. So that's what this link is doing. And there are two different kinds of links. There's the soft link and the hard link. I did a video that actually explains all of that. So if you watch your Linux videos, you'll see all of that there. And then you can list that. Now we have our link that links to this. So what that means is these are the files, these are the sites that are enabled on this server, okay? And if we do this Nginx -t is how it tests for the syntax, whether it's good or not. And we have the same thing in Apache to config test. Remember we did that, okay? So to disable the default site, we just have to remove the link, all right? And that's what we're doing. So sudo on link site enable default, all right? And if we now do ls here, you can see default is no longer there because we removed the link and project lamp is the only one there, okay? So what we will now do is to reload, okay? Reload, done that. If we refresh, it's not there yet because we don't actually have our application code anywhere, right? We don't have any. So you see 403 forbidden because, you know, so sometimes when you see websites and you're beginning to see some errors, you begin to understand what they mean. Okay, it already shows this is an Nginx web server, okay, but it's a 403 error. So what we need to do now is to now put, oh, this is, let me remove that. This was when I was doing the comparison. Okay, so we need to then put content in our HTML file. Remember what we said about this? Yeah, awesome. And let's do a cat on this. See the content. So hello lamb from hostname, that. And then if we refresh, we should be able to see, and our website is live, up and running. So before we had 403, there was a downtime, and then Linux engineers, DevOps engineers came in, see what's happening. Maybe for some reason someone deleted the application file, the index.html, and users are seeing 403. You go on the server, you go into the logs, you notice that there is page not found or whatever, you know, and then you let the developers know, and you know they redeploy, and the application file is there, and then the site is back up, and everybody's happy. This is a typical situation of what happens. So the next thing is testing PHP with Nginx. So similar to what we did before, I'm sure someone might be interested to do this. Does anybody want to take the challenge to do a chat? Nice. I haven't even said anything before you send that over, so thank you very much for that. So we're just going to keep refreshing. Everyone can keep refreshing this. So once we refresh and we see PHP, we know Chad has done wonders on that server. Okay. And what's the next one after that? Okay, so we're actually going to deploy a typical application that will interact with the database. Let's see if chat is done. And let's see if info.php. It's there. Not yet. So it's still 404 not found because we don't have it yet. So we'll keep on trying till chat has done it. And that gives us a bit of time to go through what's going on here. And by the way, what we're doing now is typically how things used to happen before DevOps. You know, we would have what we call run book. And to do an implementation, we'll have a run book that has steps and commands that we need to go into the server physically and run, you know, commands on the server. And you can imagine that is prone to error because, you know, you can copy something, it's just not going to work well or whatever. But all of this is going to be fully automated very soon. And we don't have to keep on going running commands on the servers. Okay, chat said it's done. Brilliant. Can you see? So chat, you've done it. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Okay, so so let's retrieve data from MySQL database with PHP. So what we're going to do is we already have MySQL configured on this server. So we've connected to it. So let's create a database. So these are SQL commands. So create database example database. Okay, so do we actually want to use example database? Let's use something else. Let's use something else. So all right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put all the commands that we need first. Okay, and that creates the user, and then we've done this, create database, create user, and then we want to grant permission for that user on the database. And most of the time, this is the kind of work you'll be doing with MySQL, really, as DevOps engineers. You're not a database administrator, so you wouldn't be expected to do, you know, a lot of things. Okay, so create table. But at least you should have basic understanding of what's going on. You know, we want to create a database, create a user, create a table, create insert data. You can take a crash course on SQL if you like, but if not, most of the time, whatever command you need to run for supporting databases, your developers would give you. Let's say they need you to create a table, they need you to insert some test data while they're testing, you know, all these kind of things you can get by. But if you do want to have the knowledge, at least understand what you're doing, you can just take a crash course, maybe on Udemy on SQL to know what's going on. You don't have to go deep doing analytics on what's it called? SQL. Okay, so we have all our commands. The next thing I want to do is this, update this as well. The reason I'm pasting everything here is first so I can make all the changes all at once. So example database. Let's call it to do DB. Okay. We want to find example database and then replace it with ToDoDB. So there are 6 occurrences of this, so we're just going to change everything at once. Boom. Example user. And then I'll just call this to do user. Okay, because we want to deploy an application that does to-do lists, right? So in our database, create database to do, and our terminator there. Query, okay, affected one row. The next thing is to create a user. So what's going on here is we're creating a user called to do user. At percent is to say from anywhere. You know, I could put an IP address here to say only this user can only log on from a particular IP address, and that is actually a good way to secure your database, because you want to be careful there. You know, so in the real world, in most cases, you're not going to open it to anywhere. Okay, so especially if it's application user, because your application would need a username that will be embedded into the application code, and then the application will be able to use that user to log on to interact with the database. So most likely you would be given requirements to limit where the application is connecting from, all right? And then it could be a range of IP addresses or whatever. I think we have some projects ahead that shows that. But for now, we just make it connect from anywhere. And then, of course, especially so that you guys can also be able to work with it. And then identify with MySQL native password by, you know, this password. Actually, when you were doing the secure installation, did you choose a password strength? I think it was maybe that did that. Let's find out. Otherwise, this password may not work. We might need to find a more complex password. So can you please confirm that in the chat so that we know what you did? But then what I'll do is, yeah, let me just make it complex anyway. Yeah, he said strength of 50 low. Last, okay, let's just make it complex. You know, I'm trying to build a fully secure application, so no one should be able to log on to it, isn't it? So the application itself needs to use this password to log on. Let's see if this is going to work. Create user. Awesome, that worked. Grant all on tododb.start. So what's going on here is we have a database called todo_db. Within a database, you can create different things. You can create tables, you can create views, you can create stored procedures, so many things. These are database objects that you can create. So what we're saying is the to-do user, we need to grant it access to do everything inside this database. Okay, so asterisk is a wildcard for everything. So a to-do user that can do everything in this database. Imagine if we did something like this. What does this mean? Can anyone tell me what that means? Start.start to do user. Tell me what that means. Tell me what that means. I'm waiting. Please tell me what that means. I don't know. Okay. That worked. And now we're going to create a table. So grant all to everyone. No, it's not. And it's not everyone. No, it's not. So what it means is it's grant all access to user. No. We already done the access, and here we've already said have access to all. To be able to access from anywhere. Okay, and we've said all access. Okay, on this database, on all the objects within this database. but we replace this database to asterisk. So not all access to the root user. You're right to some extent, but I want you to be a little bit more specific. It's something I'm expecting you guys to say. Only DB started with to do. Okay, no, let me just say. So what we said, if I did asterisk here, it means all the databases on this server, this user would have access to it, because we created this database called to do. What if we created another database called ecom? Maybe this database engine is being used by multiple websites, and that website also has its own database called ecom DB. And then there's another database called probably ecom delivery DB. All right. So if I did start, it means to do user has access to all of these databases. Okay. But if I limited it to do DB, that means this to do user would only have access to this database that was created. It will never be able to select, to insert, to delete, to do anything on both of these databases. Okay, so that's basically what that means. All right, and these are the kind of things you would understand, have to be able to understand, you know, to carry on doing your work. So let's carry on, create this table. So we have a table we're creating in to do DB, and then we're creating the table called to do underscore list. In that table, there is a column called item underscore ID. There's another column called content, and it has a primary key on item underscore ID. So these are database concepts. If you do your crash course, you understand what a primary key is, what a secondary key is, what constraints are, what data types are. This is a data type here. Auto increment is a way to automatically increment the number of the ID. It can be 1, 1, 1, 3, depending. You know, there's a whole lot of things that you might want to learn about this. So it's a crash course you can take. And the only reason I know this is because I used to work as a database administrator. That's the reason why I know it. Okay, so otherwise, people come from different backgrounds to do DevOps. Some people don't come from database background. They come from a software engineering background, and they would know things. And that's why DevOps teams are usually a combination of different people with different skill sets, right? Okay, so we do have a syntax somewhere. Let's find out. Okay, so what do we got? All right, if someone has done this project too, if you know exactly where just to save us a bit of time without trying to figure out where the problem is, you can just let me know quickly. I copied the prompt. Okay, let's see if that's the problem. So that means I have to put it here. Oh, I see. Okay, I see what's going on. So I'm just going to remove all of that, and that should solve our problem. All right, thank you very much for that, David. All right, we want to insert some data into the database. And we're going to do a simple select statement. So example DB has been changed to do DB. And is there any other thing? All right, let's try this. Okay, we've inserted some data. So what we've done is insert into to do and into this to do list table. In the content, we put in the value of my first important item. So let's ideally, this is the kind of things that applications would do. So rather than going into the database to insert data, the application will do that. Then the user from the front end will put in the data, the application takes the data and then put it into a command, an Sql command like this, and then send it to the database to put the data in there. So let's do a select. And you can see that item, even though we didn't specify this number in our insert statement, it was automatically put in there, and that's the auto increment. Okay, if we try to insert a second item into the database, you can see now we have 2, and this is my second. So this is how database works, keep having data. And there's a few more information around databases. You can have multiple tables, you can join tables to pull back data. If you did your crash course, you'll be able to see that in action. Okay, so let's now create our application. All right. Let's exit. And now we're back into our shell. And I don't want to use nano. And in there, I'm going to put this because we've changed the name of the user and the password. So I'm going to use this. And this is some of the things that you don't have to worry about. This is an application code. So for those of you that keep wondering, oh, as a DevOps engineer, I have to learn code and all that. Well, you don't have to learn this kind of code. You can do this later on in your career. Okay. Oops. Let's copy it properly. I don't want to put trading white spaces. Yeah, that's more like it. Okay, so what do we got? So let's now we still have the old application. So we need to put the context path to do list. And this is the application that we have now created. So you can see that it's actually pulling data from the database directly. These are data that we inserted. So, I mean, this is not an advanced application. Ideally, your application will probably have somewhere, you sign in and then you put in some data and all that. But when it comes to retrieving data, you can see what's going on here, right? And if we sudo MySQL, so let's go back and try to insert more data. My third. Let's post this. Can we have more people post more data into this database so we can refresh the page and see more content? So I'm going to post this. This is the select statement. Sorry, this is the insert statement I've sent to you on Slack. So you can just put your own content, and let's just refresh this page and begin to see how it's going to be pulling up more data. You see, this is the one I just added into it, and I want to see more people adding more content. Okay, and that's project 2 completed. Well done, guys. So what time is it? This is 10:30, so we'll spend 2.5 hours. Do you guys want us to do project 3? Project 3 is probably going to take us maybe another 1 hour. So do you want to do that? Take a bit of break, go on, or leave it till next week, next weekend when we will meet again? What would you guys like to do? Let me know. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah. So we have people, yeah. Okay, awesome. So thank you very much, guys. So all right, cool. Let's actually refresh this page and see if we have more. Okay, no one has actually done anything on the database, but that's fine. All right, cool. Yeah. So information overload, of course. So let's leave it till next weekend again, and then we will wrap up project 3, 4, 5, 6, and see how far we can go. And gradually we keep on making progress. And then for the whole week, don't forget, join the stand-up channel. Don't forget to also catch up with videos, okay? Watch videos during the week. Try to finish up your Linux knowledge, and then let's move on to other things, all right? And if you're not following us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or anything, Solomon is going to send a link. Please follow as well and share what we're doing so that we can actually get more people to join us. So thank you very much, guys. I'm going to leave it here and wish you a very, very blessed week. Bye-bye. Let me stop the recording.
Thanks very much.
Record.